Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Gonna be back. So want to go ahead and do a little bit of a follow-up on a story and a narrative and a conversation that we discussed quite a bit here on the Aaron Torres Pod and Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel over the course of the weekend. It involves Colorado Buffaloes. It involves Coach Prime, and it involves that very impressive win over UCF this last weekend. So obviously, if you're paying attention to the channel, if you're subscribed, if you're not subscribed, shame on you. But if you're subscribed, you already know. Saturday night, we did immediate reaction to the game. What does it mean? Third straight win, all that good stuff. And then on Sunday, we kind of talked about why I believe in a wide open Big 12 where Utah has a league loss, where Kansas State has a league loss, where pretty much everybody has at least one loss at this point, except for Iowa State and BYU. Why I believe Colorado could be a player in this league, in the league standings and in the race for the Big 12 title. At the same time, though, wanted to take a moment, take a deep dive on Colorado, where things stand. By the way, should mention, now that I'm thinking about it, don't want to put the cart before the horse. There is a chance somebody from Colorado football, not Coach Prime, but somebody involved with the program, could be on this show in the coming days. So make sure you're subscribed because we could have something very good for you. Don't want to promise anything until it is official, but there could be some Colorado love, to say the least, on this show. Anyway, let's get back to Saturday because the bottom line is, listen, Coach Prime, Colorado, back in the news, 4-1, 3 straight wins. The people like myself who have largely supported this team, outside of the Nebraska game where I was a little bit frustrated, I've kind of believed in the Coach Prime vision. The people that believe in Coach Prime have believed in him. But of course, the negative people, the negative voices are back as well because the team's having a little bit of success. Well, I bring it up because earlier today, I was kind of browsing the comment section on one of our videos. And one of our commenters, I want to give him or her a ton of credit because they brought up something that I thought was so interesting and a stat that is so mind-boggling. I think and I hope and I believe, like Coach Prime, I believe that this stat is going to just kind of make you understand just how great Coach Prime has actually been at Colorado and just how much he has had to overcome. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. Here is the comment. It was from one of our YouTube videos this weekend, and it comes from a listener named Christ the King. That's their Twitter, or that's their YouTube handle. And he or she wrote, quote, "If you look at this program since 2022, where their average margin of victory was negative 29, in other words, they were getting beaten by an average of 29 points per game, Coach Prime has brought this program a long way. No one has the ability to turn the worst P5 program in history into a championship contender overnight." So let me take a quick second. Let me say this. Christ the King, I don't know who you are. One, I appreciate your support. Two, you're smarter than like 80% of the people on ESPN or wherever that actually talk about this stuff because this is such a great point. And I think this reflects just how far Coach Prime has come during his time with the Colorado Buffaloes. Okay. It wasn't, to Christ the King's point, it wasn't just that he took over a bad program. He literally took over the worst program in Power 5. I'm going to read you some final scores from the year before Coach Prime got there. Okay. Week 1, TCU. This is September 2nd, 2022. So 9/2/2022. Lose 38-13 to TCU. Lose 41-10 to Air Force. Lose 49-7 to Minnesota. Remember, Minnesota basically doesn't even try to score. Try to beat you 13-10 every week. Colorado lost by 42. They lose by, if my math is correct, let's see here. They lose by 22 to UCLA, 23 to Arizona, 33 to Oregon State. They lose by only 8 to Arizona State. That was during the 2022 season. Herm Edwards had been fired. They had already had an interim head coach. They lose by 39 to Oregon, 38 to USC, 47 to Washington, 42 to Utah. Listen to that final 4 games again. They lose 49-10 to Oregon, 55-17 to USC, 54-7 to Washington, 63-21. I want to welcome a new sponsor to the Aaron Torres pod, Blue Chew. Fellas, remember back in the day when you were always ready to go? Well, things change. You got a lot on your mind. Your football team isn't very good. Well, here's the good news. That's where Blue Chew comes in. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in chewable form. To get started, it's so easy. Just go to BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part, it's all done online. No awkward trip to the doctors, no waiting at the pharmacy, no stink eyes, no raised eyebrows, nothing. Thing is, though, I know a lot of you are probably wondering, Torres, does it actually work? Do you think I need to try it? Well, here's the deal. Try it for a month for free, and I think there will be no turning back, all right? You'll love it. Your partner is going to love it. Your football team may stink, but you'll be rocking like the 85 Bears between the sheets. So go ahead, try it out, and here is the great news. We have a special offer for listeners of the Aaron Torres pod. You can try Blue Chew for free when you use the code Torres at checkout. All you got to do is pay $5 in shipping. Go to BlueChew.com, use promo code Torres at checkout. You get Blue Chew for free for a free month, and you only have to pay $5 shipping. Again, visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. Thank you to Blue Chew for sponsoring the Aaron Torres podcast. That isn't bad. That is embarrassing. By the way, Christ the King, I'll say about your comment, I actually tally them losing by an average of 31 points in the final season, not 29. Now, you're probably right because I'm bad at math, but I tally 31 points per game, including 4 separate losses, or I guess it would be 3 separate losses by 40-plus points. I have 5 separate losses by 35 or more. So you talk about how dark that situation was and how much Coach Prime had to overcome. That is absolutely unbelievable to me, okay? And what I would say, a couple things stand out when we talk about this, and it's some of the stuff that we've talked about a lot on this channel, really since we've gotten going with Coach Prime coverage. You know, one, I do think it's worth noting, and I said this all along. You can go back to the day Coach Prime was hired, okay? I think there was this narrative, there was this belief, oh, he's just hired because he's one of the greatest football players of all time. No. Go back and look at what he did at Jackson State, okay? Go back and look at what he did at Jackson State. We talked about it at the time. We talked about it throughout last season. 4-3 in year one at Jackson State. That was the COVID year. They had to play in the spring. I think he got hired in like October. They were playing in January or February. 11-2 in year two. 12-1 in year three. And so I've said all along, this isn't a gimmick. This isn't a game. This isn't a whatever you want to call it, whatever. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. But the people that think, oh, it's just he's a famous player that wants to coach his sons. This guy went 23-3 over his final 2 years at Jackson State. Don't tell me that guy doesn't know how to evaluate talent, how to build a roster, how to coach, how to put together a coaching staff. Listen, I can't promise 11-1 this year. I can't promise a Big 12 title or title game appearance. What I can promise, this guy knows what he is doing. What everybody, and I include myself, like I said, I was critical after the Nebraska game. First of all, I bought into the hype that North Dakota State was a disaster. I didn't see that with my eyes. I convinced myself what everybody else told me, oh, they barely beat North Dakota State. No, they were in control. Defense was fine. Second half, whatever. By the way, North Dakota State scored late. Oh, doesn't matter. They were bad against Nebraska, and I was critical. But what I think I forgot is exactly what our commenter said there, is how bad the situation was, and really what we talked about last year, and really what we talked about all offseason. Because at the end of the day, here's what you need to know, is when you look at the Coach Prime plan, and he has laid this out, and again, when you take a loss here, when you have a bad day there, you forget about the plan. But the plan year one was he just had to overhaul that roster. That was why, I'm coming and I'm bringing my own luggage and it's Louis. Well, guess what? Year one, I hate to be rude. I hate to be crass to any of the players that were there previously. But year one was just about getting out the guys that simply weren't good enough, whether it was that winter or that spring. Year one was about getting rid of those guys, and transparently, they just needed bodies. And so you go back and look at that offseason. the team was so bad, they were just taking bodies. They were just trying to find guys that could play at that level. And with Shedeur, with Travis Hunter, they were able to have success early, but it obviously wasn't sustainable because they just didn't have enough of those guys. And so year two, it's been awesome to watch because you see the guys that were there last year. Not only Shedeur, not only Travis Hunter, but a guy like Levante Bentley, who I think has been the best player maybe on defense outside of Travis Hunter. But you also see the plan that Coach Prime had. He had his core of guys that he really liked, his core of guys that are good enough to play at this level. And then he went out and got some more Louis, got some more guys that are difference makers in the portal. Will Shepard, wide receiver, Vanderbilt. LeJontay Wester, wide receiver, Florida Atlantic. BJ Green, who has been awesome defensively, defensive lineman, Arizona State. Nakai Hill Green, via Charlotte, began his career at Michigan. So we were talking about high-level players that are all having an impact. And so you take a couple of guys like Trevor Woods that were in the program when Coach Prime got there. You take the guys that came with him that first offseason, and then you take all of the guys that have been in this offseason. The guys I mentioned, I even mentioned some of the O-linemen, Khalil Benson, obviously Jordan Seaton, the true freshman, Draylon Miller, who's been good so far in spots. And you realize there is a plan in place. And so I don't think as we get set for this bye week, as we get set to see, can Colorado over the final 2/3 of their season really make a push towards the Big 12 title? I don't think we can undersell what Coach Prime actually inherited, how bad it actually was, how much work he actually had to do, and transparently how far he has already gotten this program. Okay. My last thought, can't promise if they win a Big 12 title. I can't even promise whatever. I can't promise anything. But what I can tell you is this, whether Coach Prime coaches another 30 years, whether he leaves after this year, I don't think he's going to, but let's say, he just says, I coach Travis, I coach my sons, I'm ready to move on to the next thing. This program is in a much better place than it was, and it is because of Coach Prime. An average margin of defeat, 1-11, an average margin of defeat of 29 points. I counted 31, but 29 points in 11 losses to now 4-1. And I think in position to compete with and maybe beat anybody left on their schedule. Coach Prime's been awesome, man. It's been so fun to watch. And I can't wait for the rest of the season. By the way, like I said, stay tuned to the channel. We may have somebody tied in with Colorado football on the show later this week. By the way, one last thing. You want to support the show? We did it last year. We'll do it again. We got our primetime tees, baby. Our primetime tees. Support the show. Link is in the show description. Good for you. Good for friends. Good for family. You can get them for Christmas. Whatever. Support the show. The link is in the show description. Subscribe. We'll be back hopefully later this week with somebody Colorado related, but also on Tuesday's Aaron Torres pod. We'll go live Tuesday. We're going to be talking about mid-season awards. And I think you can probably guess who's my mid-season Heisman Trophy